Hey everyone, we're beginning our second week today in a 3-week unit that discusses economic life and organization and how it impacts society and the lives of individuals in different ways. I've divided this into 3 parts. Last week, we read about capitalism and the economy. There, the larger macro picture was presented that explains how the whole system of capitalism works. This week, we'll be reading about class structure and inequality in the United States, and next week, we'll be talking about how culture and lifestyle differences stem from and serve to further distinguish between people of differing social classes. I organized it this way purposely. Some people agree with many of Marx's analyses, and some don't. But one thing I think is indisputable in what Marx writes about capitalism is that capitalism and every economic system that predated it is accompanied by a particular set of social relations between people who occupy different positions within that system and that economy. And those different positions are class positions. So capitalism developed out of the tatters of a feudal system that was losing hold as the political relations shifted, as the growing town-living bourgeois class resisted the power of the royal aristocracy, and as technological developments changed agricultural and manufacturing processes in truly revolutionary ways. And with the new arrangements in production came new relationships between people in different positions in that production system. So the class structure changed, and the relationship between people changed along with it. So we began by contemplating the system of capitalism, how it works, how it is organized, and the primary characteristics of a capitalist economy. We see in Marx's analyses of the relations between the bourgeois, the owning class, and the proletariat, those who own nothing but their labor power, which they must sell to owners on the labor market. A skeleton class structure accompanied by a basic relationship of inequality and exploitation. But what is it that really constitutes a social class? This can be defined in slightly different ways, but ultimately sociologists consider social classes groups of people who have approximately the same life chances based on their access to various kinds of resources. Among these, often education and job resources and opportunities. This week, we'll be looking more at just what kinds of resources these are, as well as considering some of the factors that keep that class system stable. Well, we have many stories about the possibilities of social mobility, and while those possibilities are not totally artificial, what sociologists have found again and again is that class structure is relatively stable over time, and that most people experience fairly little social mobility. That is, while it is certainly formally possible to move from the lowest class up to the highest class, or the other way around, it does happen from time to time, these stories are exceptions to the general pattern in which successive generations tend to remain at roughly the same class level as those that came before them. How do we explain that? There are cultural and structural explanations, and this week we'll be spending a little more time thinking about the structural explanations. You will read from Perucci and Wysong, who present an alternative analysis of contemporary American class structure from that we normally discuss, and additionally discuss rules of the game that help to keep that structure stable. Next week, we'll move on to discuss the lifestyle and cultural aspects of class, including the concept of cultural capital, which is introduced in your text this week, which refers to non-economic aspects like knowledge, manners, social habits, aesthetic tastes, values, etc., which are exchangeable for status, job, college admittance, etc. Think of our earnest and hardworking friend Ronnie, who didn't shake hands with white women, and may have lost out on jobs because of that, despite his sincere desire to work hard at a legitimate job. next week. And next week, you will not be reading from the textbook at all, which means both a little less reading next week and that the quiz for next week will be based on the PDFs I've provided by Juliette Shore and Pierre Bourdieu. You also have a small assignment for next week that requires posting 2 images you found online and writing a brief analysis of one of your classmates' images of your choosing. More instructions on that will be available later. There are a lot of big and potentially difficult concepts in this 3-week section, and I'd like to ask you to think about them in as much of an interconnected way as you can. As our friend Mills would certainly agree, there are deep connections between such small things as how we serve dinner at home and very large things like the global capitalistic system. What are some of these connections? See if you can trace some of them in similar ways that you guys did when we were thinking through gender. How does class as a structural position in an economic system relate to the habits, manners, tastes, and values of individuals or families who are plugged into particular locations in that system? How do such cultural elements assist in or challenge the division and maintenance over time of class structure? These are some of the overarching questions that I'd like you to keep in the back of your mind as you're moving through this material. I will also be offering a few different extra credit opportunities this week, which I will outline in an announcement and create a submission portal for later on this week. You're welcome to do as many or none of the extra credit assignments that I offer. And if there's something that you'd like to look deeper into that doesn't make it into an extra credit assignment but is based on material from this class, you may propose a paper or an assignment that you'd be interested in doing for extra credit, and you can contact me through email for that purpose. So I hope you guys enjoy the upcoming weeks. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the readings, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.